so there was this strong, at the time, anathema to, antipathy to blacks and whites having children together, being together, and yet he was treated better because, I think it was probably clear to everyone that he had a white father.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I would say so.
How do you explain that dichotomy? Or was it mainly among white people that they had an issue with it?
So are you referring to his special treatment among all?
Yeah, the fact that he was treated so much better.
Well,
because he had
I'd have to take at face value what he said, and that's basically that it was based on his looks, that he was a cute baby, and people admired him for his looks and the fact that he was quote unquote cute, and that got him favorable treatment.
Okay, so it wasn't so much about having, although he does say that the light-skinned people got better treatment in those days.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what he said. And so if you want to base it on maybe historical information, I would say that you could draw an analogy to during slavery times, the treatment that the house servants got in comparison to the field the field servants. And so then if you want to take it a step further than that, although the master of the house had access to all of the enslaved peoples, it wouldn't be a stretch to figure out that he had more immediate access to those that were working inside the house as opposed to in the field. And so the offspring of those house slaves would naturally favor the master of the house, who would then bestow upon them more favorable treatment for obvious reasons.
Right.
So, yeah, that would be, I think, the historical connection too. But I think, though, more than anything else, it is as simple as him being a beautiful child, a cute child, fair skin, long curly hair. And I think that, based on what he has shared with me, is the real reason he got favorable treatment. But in terms of, you could say both, because
now, did Bernice, I'm kind of assuming that she never told her husband George how this child came to be. Can we assume that he could figure it out, or did he think she had cheated on him?
So that's the part where the creative license comes in at. We took creative license in describing her character, and so Daddy's description of her was that she was a quote unquote beautiful Black woman. But we took some creative license in describing her disposition as being one that was no nonsense. And then, especially in light of the fact that she defended herself with a Spanish revolver, she wasn't a shrieking violet. You could surmise that from how she took action when she was accosted by the women with the knife. Okay, so with that information in mind, we developed this scene where she comes home from prison with my father in her arms as a baby, and George Johnson greets her at the front door and says, "Well, who is that?" And she brushes past him abruptly and says, "It's my baby. That's who it is. Now get out of the way." And she goes into the house, and that was that. and that was the end of it. And he took my dad as his own from that point on.
Mm-hmm. It's a remarkable story. It really is. Including the fact, I think it's pertinent today that this was a child she didn't exactly willingly, become pregnant with, and yet she apparently even favored him over her husband's children. And he accepted the child. It's, truly remarkable people. George obviously was very flawed because he had a lot to do with why this happened, but we'll get into that in the next reading.
Okay. It started in July 1926. This is our creative license in developing what Bernice would speak. Now, keep in mind, I've never met my paternal grandmother.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I don't even have a picture of her. I had a quilt that she had made, and somehow it got lost in our move from California.
Well,
That's awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who's on the book?
So that is a depiction of just a random person in the public domain that we used, whose dress and appearance would have resembled that of Bernice's at that time.
That era. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. It started in July 1926. That's when my grandmother, Bernice Johnson, first had a confrontation with one of the Sanders women. Just 20 at the time, and about 7 months pregnant with her first child, Bernice was telling Carrie Berkeley, nee Sanders, to stay away from my husband. Bernice had twice seen Carrie following along after George Johnson. "What were you doing following along after my husband?" Bernice asked. "I was just walking up the road," Carrie replied. Bernice turned and left. The next day, she again ran into Carrie, who taunted her by saying, "Here I am. If you want to whip me, here I am." "I saw you walking with my husband," Bernice said, "and I asked you not to do it again. That's all." Then Bernice turned and went home. There was a lull. 3 weeks passed. Bernice forgot about the incident with Carrie Berkeley. August 16th, 1926 was a hot Monday in Jackson, Mississippi. The air was thick and humid. Bernice was suffering in the heat. She felt so heavy. She was large for 7 months along. There was no escape from the heat. She felt as if she was suffering. She decided to go outside and see if she could catch a breeze. Her legs and feet felt like lead weights. It was so hard just to walk. When she saw some friends gathered on Ella Lee Bradley's porch, she decided to stop and visit with Ned, Martha, and Ella Lee. "Well, nobody ever wants to work," Ella Lee said. Bernice responded, "Nobody is working but my husband, and I don't have the things I want. If I was able to work, I would be working." Just then, Carrie Berkeley rushed up to the porch. "Who in the hell are you talking about?" she said to Bernice. "Carrie, I am not talking to you," Bernice replied. "You lying heifer, come on out of there," Carrie said. She was holding an open penknife wrapped in a handkerchief. Bernice saw an iron bar laying on the ground, but before she could pick up the iron bar, Carrie was stabbing at her with the knife. Bernice grabbed the iron bar and struck Carrie with it. Carrie slashed Bernice's arm with the knife. They battled back and forth. Carrie tried to cut Bernice, and Bernice tried to grab the knife. Carrie cut Bernice's hand and then turned and ran off. Bernice waited about 5 minutes and said to her companions, "I'm going home." She brought the iron bar with her up the street. When she got a little above Elm Street at Railroad Avenue, Carrie Berkeley's mother, Carrie Sanders, grabbed Bernice and said, "What's wrong with you?" "I didn't say anything to Carrie," Bernice said. Mrs. Sanders struck Bernice on the arm with a club. Carrie ran up and began to cut at Bernice with the knife, slashing Bernice's dress over and over. Mrs. Sanders held Bernice, who tried to fight her off, putting her arms over her stomach to protect her unborn child. Then Mrs. Sanders' daughter, Olivia, came out with a stick, and Bernice fought with her. Bernice's friend Estella arrived and held back Carrie and Olivia. Mrs. Sanders said, "Why don't you whip me? Look who's got you. I got you. I'm going to cut that baby out of you," Carrie said to Bernice. Then Martha came over and pulled Bernice away. "Go home," Martha said. Bernice went on home, but she carried the iron bar. In her condition, she needed protection. When she got to the corner, she turned and heard Mrs. Sanders say, "We're going to kill her tonight."
The first question that came to my mind was, how in the world, I mean, you based this on the court transcripts, correct? You read them all.
The court transcripts, but even more telling, the newspaper article, which was the first-hand account of an unbiased party about what happened.
Oh, did she get convicted of, was it murder or manslaughter? What was she actually convicted of?
She got convicted of the lesser offense of manslaughter.
How did she get convicted at all when this was so obviously a case of self-defense?
Because someone
that blows my mind. Because what?
Someone died.
Okay.
She was defending herself with the revolver. She swung around to shoot at her assailants, and there was the younger daughter of one of the assailants there, whose name was Letty Sanders. I think at this time she may have been between 11 and 14 years old, and she was struck by a stray bullet. She went to the hospital while Bernice waited in jail to find out what the outcome of her recovery would be, and she died. Had she survived, maybe that would have changed the outcome of her verdict. Go ahead.
Would it have changed the verdict if she had hit the women who were actually attacking her?
She did hit one of them. She hit the mother in the shoulder.
Okay.
But she did.
So I suppose, you having been in law enforcement, what's your opinion? Should she have been convicted when it was so obviously self-defense?
I think that it was judging from the court transcripts, it was a fair outcome. They filed an appeal based on faulty jury instructions. Okay. And I would have to be a lawyer to decipher the intricacies of that part of it. But I think it was fair based on the fact that Letty died. That her sentence was not the more severe sentence of murder. They were able to overcome that based on the self-defense and the fact that she did not intend to kill Letty, but Letty happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And because there was a loss of life, I think that the 2 years that she got was fair.
And we learn in concealed carry classes, that idea of You know, you could be convicted of a crime if you brandish, if you shoot someone, if the force is out of proportion to the threat you are facing, you know, a number of these things. So it does seem kind of, you know, I don't want to say prescient, but at that time that they could have weighed all of that and come up with that kind of a, you know, a verdict given all those other facts.
And yet you are actually in contact, and I think, was it BBC that you were interviewed on?
Yes.
Okay. And that in itself is amazing that you were on BBC. I want to be on BBC.
Great experience.
But you talked about how through this DNA test, you connected with these relatives, you know, more distant than cousins, that had this connection to your father's father.
Right.
I mean, so what is that kind of what you hoped for in taking the DNA test, or what do you
Absolutely.
expect or hope? Okay.
Absolutely. I couldn't have prayed for a better outcome. And I'm so lucky and blessed that I got an affirmative response from Bruce, because I just put the DNA test on the record and waited and looked at who I shared DNA markers with, but it was Bruce who actually reached out to me and acknowledged that we were related and requested more information. So that was a miracle in and of itself, because I had responses from other DNA matches that in the final analysis, it appears as though they wanted to know how we were related. But once I was able to draw the connection for them, they kind of faded off. That didn't happen with Bruce. As a matter of fact, Bruce and his wife, Jane, we all consider ourselves family. We share time together and we visit each other. They live in Illinois. We've been to their house. They've been to our house in California. And we share vacations together. We have in the past, and we communicate regularly. So I like to say that it was what Bruce initiated was a roadmap to reconciliation.